Welcome to this Writing Services presentation on organizational strategies for your ideas and writing. My name is Jodie Salter and I'm with Writing Services in the McLaughlin Library at the University of Guelph. This presentation focuses on pre-writing and post-writing approaches to help you visualize and structure the flow of information within a document. I will show you different examples of visual brainstorming, dialogic approaches, outlines and reverse outlines, and very briefly at the end, I will highlight some file management systems to help you better organize your sources and drafts. I'm going to present you with a toolbox of ideas. Some might work for you and others might not. Nevertheless, I'm going to ask you to try something new. Step away from your computer, grab some paper, and explore some different ways to examine and think about your writing project. Many of the images in this presentation are from previous writing camps at the University of Guelph. In this example, the researcher knew her topic quite well, but couldn't clearly envision or articulate how the smaller arguments fit together into a cohesive, logical narrative. She used large pieces of paper, wrote down her main related topics of discussion, and then we chatted. She verbally walked me through her diagram, answered questions about research gaps, prioritized the importance of specific information, and reevaluated the logic and order. Through this process of clarifying her ideas, she was able to assess for herself what fit where. She restructured the chapters, created a revised outline, and finished a completed draft of her manuscript within the next 5 months. Concept mapping is something I love to do when I'm too tired to write clearly, which for me is often later in the evening when my mind is still active. Start with the main idea and think as broadly as possible. Capture everything that comes to mind. Think big, then focus. Use your concept map to narrow your topic to address one specific question or problem. This picture here on global warming could represent an entire book, but the section in blue in the lower right corner could be used as the primary focus for a shorter research article. Concept mapping can be used to brainstorm a new project or for outlining an introduction, discussion section, and the conclusion. In these pictures, we see arrows showing connections, relationships, progressive stages of development, cause and effect, etc. Sticky notes are particularly useful because they can be added or moved to other sections to form relevant groupings of ideas. Use this strategy for thinking big and then for narrowing your research focus. Here are different examples of ways to organize topics and arguments. The left image shows a student getting ready for their oral defense. They've taken their study notes and cut them apart. On the left column, they list their main arguments. In the middle, they include their supporting evidence for those arguments. And on the right, they list the studies and theorists that support those specific arguments. The picture on the right is a writer organizing a literature review. This strategy is known as banquet hall tables. You can check out my YouTube video on the banquet hall analogy. On a piece of paper, they've organized theorists and studies based on one primary topic of conversation. They can now use these sheets to talk through their ideas to determine the most logical order to present these topics and their information. Cue cards can be used to organize a chapter, with each card containing the main topic of a paragraph or a section. The cards can be moved to group and prioritize ideas. Ask yourself, what information does your reader need to know first in order to understand what comes next? It can be challenging to get critical distance from your own writing. These two examples show different ways to review your writing projects and assess the logic and flow. On the left is a chapter under revision, with the sections cut and reassembled to group similar topics. On the right is a thesis under revision, with the chapters laid out in order and the supporting information connected. This image is from the thesis and article mapping workshop. Thesis and article mapping provides a writer with a visual of their entire project and its smaller constituent parts. This strategy helps writers assess the overall logic and flow while helping keep them focused on their current writing task. Please see my thesis or article mapping workshop for more on this tool. I used to do online writing consultations with a scholar who lived in Brazil. She was working on Chapter 6 and used this mapping tool to prepare for a committee meeting. She wasn't clear where certain information fit within the chapter, so we used this tool to help her organize her thought process. Across the top, she has listed her main sections of Chapter 6, and through conversation, she was able to determine what her reader needed to know first before she moved to the next piece of information. She used sticky notes so she could move ideas around. She then showed this map to her committee and asked for feedback on the logic and flow of her chapter. During my dissertation writing process, I used my walls to help me organize my chapters, maintain focus on my current writing, and store ideas for later writing tasks. Let's imagine I'm currently writing Chapter 3, and I read something that is pertinent to Chapter 5, but I don't want to get distracted. I don't want to end up researching information for Chapter 5 when I need to focus on my current writing goal. So, I write a sticky note with this interesting piece of information, include the citation, post it under the column for Chapter 5, and then I return to my writing focus on Chapter 3. This helps me keep on track and moving forward with my writing. When it comes time for me to start Chapter 5, I visit my wall, review my notes, make my writing plan, and then I begin my new chapter. It's incredibly important to keep a notebook with you at all times because you don't know when an idea might arise and you don't want to forget it. I have a notebook beside my bed for when I wake up in the middle of the night with a thought, and I write it down because otherwise I'll have forgotten it by the morning. Sometimes our most poignant thoughts happen when we are distracted with something else. I also used a journal to record committee meetings because after the meeting it can be hard to remember everything that was discussed or agreed upon. Journaling can also be a useful way to just clear your mind before you begin a new writing block. It gets the words flowing. It can help you articulate ideas without worrying about grammar and punctuation. I speak in more detail about daily writing logs in another presentation. This tool is incredibly important for keeping you on track by recording what you have accomplished in a set writing block and recording exactly where you need to start in your next writing block. It keeps you focused, on track, and motivated, and it can stop you from falling into the common trap of the editing loop, which limits forward movement in your writing. When we write, we tend to dump ideas on the page and then try to reorganize them into some form of logical order. However, when we speak, when we articulate our thoughts, often our brains will unconsciously structure our ideas into a more logical order so that our listener can make sense of our words. Voice recordings can be a useful tool for getting complex ideas out of our head and capturing them on the page. Often I'll go for a walk and talk out loud to myself. I ask myself questions and I record my responses using a voice recorder. Questions like, why is my research important at this particular time? In what fields of research or bodies of literature does my work contribute new ideas? What are the limitations in my methodologies? As I answer these questions, I begin to create sections of my chapters. When I return to my writing desk, I can then outline these new sections using my recordings and subsequently begin to fill in the text. I've also consulted with many researchers in chemistry, mathematics, physics, and statistics who have used voice recordings to explain difficult equations in prose language and then transcribe their recordings into their written drafts. Conversations with others are also extremely important because people ask us questions that highlight gaps in our writing. Information that seems common sense to us, but we haven't explicitly explained to our reader. For students, the more you speak about your research with others, the easier it is to discuss when you get to your oral defense. You can book a writing appointment and talk through your ideas with a consultant. Having conversations about your research can help you gain clarity on what might be missing from your writing or what you're maybe not explaining as clearly as you can. A critical listener can ask questions to probe your thinking and help flag for you the areas that you might want to return to. Pre-writing activities, such as creating outlines, can be a great way to focus a writing block. Few people sit down and write a book from start to finish. It's easier and much less stressful to write smaller sections at a time. So an outline can help us map out the major sections we want to address, the subsections that will provide support, and then the individual paragraphs that answer the large question for that subsection. This example outline of an MA thesis served as a guide for the writer. It shows what the student needs to include in each section, a record of what writing they've already completed, and what they still need to write. It functions as a way to focus their weekly writing plans and their daily goal setting. It is also incredibly useful for committee meetings to illustrate where you're at and where you're headed in your writing. Using the navigation pane in Microsoft Word is essential for moving quickly through a large document. It is super easy to set up, and it provides an outline navigation pane on the left side that has clickable links to different sections within the entire document. So now you've written a draft of an article. How do you get critical distance from the document to be able to effectively review and revise your own writing? We all have different strategies. Step away from the document for at least 2 days to give your mind time to think about something else. Work on another writing task, and when you come back to that document, this cognitive break will afford you clarity, a fresh perspective, and you will see things that you might not have noticed when you were so immersed within the document. Print out the draft, read it out loud, or have your computer read it back to you. As you listen, you will more likely hear errors that you wouldn't visually see or sections that need clarification. Put your finger under each word as you read it out loud. This is often the only way we catch smaller, minor errors such as typos and grammatical errors like subject-verb disagreement. Have somebody else read it for you and ask for specific feedback from your reader on the clarity of the argument or the order of the paragraphs. One extremely useful strategy that I want to talk about is the reverse outline. This is a post-writing outline. Reverse outlines help you evaluate the flow and development of ideas in your writing, determine if your sections and paragraphs are in logical order, and create effective topic sentences that serve as signposts to guide your reader. Take the entire document, number every paragraph, then for each paragraph, identify the primary topic of the paragraph. Assess if there's a recognizable topic sentence. Evaluate the length of the paragraph and whether the topic is sufficiently developed. Lastly, evaluate the order of the topic sentences to determine if you need to move paragraphs around to create better flow of ideas. To demonstrate how to do a reverse outline, for this next activity, I'm going to read the following paragraph out loud. Initially, many students find that getting the right balance between social activities and academic work can be a challenge. But being organized will help students be more successful. Some students already have the management skills they need, and others develop these skills as they progress through their course of study. However, there are only a certain number of hours in the day, and sometimes the continual demands and deadlines can become stressful. One of the most important time management skills that students can use to help meet deadlines is to use a semester planner and a weekly timetable to mark in due dates and to plan a study program. Goal setting is another important organizing skill, and this involves being able to keep long-term goals in mind while also setting short-term goals, such as what could realistically be accomplished in a study period. Being organized can help students lower their stress levels and also help maintain motivation. Burtis, 27, page 8, believes that getting organized is something that students need to work at and that it will not just happen naturally for them. Clearly using organizing skills to get the right work-life balance is one of the keys to ensuring success as a tertiary student. Now, pause this presentation and follow the instructions. Identify the topic in each sentence in this paragraph. Use highlighters or underlining to identify key nouns, terms, and topics in each sentence. When you are finished, press play again. When we highlight the key nouns and phrases in each sentence, we see that this paragraph focuses on the challenge of finding balance between social activities and academic work, and it argues that being organized will help students be more successful. Is the paragraph long enough? Is the topic sufficiently developed? Is there more than one topic in the paragraph? This paragraph, while not perfectly written, has pretty good cohesion, maintaining focus on organizing skills for student success. Is there a recognizable topic sentence for this paragraph? As a reader, I expect that the topic sentence, the very first sentence in a paragraph, clearly explains the main focus of the paragraph. If your paragraphs do not have clear topic sentences, rewrite them or add them in the revision process. Evaluating this paragraph's cohesiveness, we see a clear topic sentence, which establishes the focus of the paragraph. We see two clear examples that support the main argument, one about time management skills and the second about goal setting. The sentence that reads, "Being organized can help students lower their stress levels and also help maintain motivation," clearly expands the discussion outlined in the topic sentence. We see evidence inserted, Burtis, 2007, page 8, that provides further relevant support. And the paragraph ends with a concluding sentence, asserting the importance of the paragraph's claim. Finally, in a reverse outline, you need to review all the topic sentences and evaluate whether the paragraphs are organized in a logical order. Do you have topics that recur throughout the document that could be grouped together into a longer discussion section? Lastly, before we conclude, if you do not have a file management system that organizes your research articles, your writing, and your citations all in one place, then I strongly encourage you to begin using one. At the bottom of this slide is a link to the McLaughlin Library's LibGuides for resources that can help you organize your references. You will find information on Zotero, on Mendeley, and EndNote. There are many different file management tools to help you keep organized, and the more organized you are, the less stressed you will be. If you're a University of Guelph student or faculty and you need support in setting up a file management system, you can contact the library at lib.uguelph.ca, or you can visit the library Book an Appointment webpage to book an appointment on any of the topics discussed in this presentation. You will find details about these support services listed here. Thank you for watching. I'm Jodie Salter, and I hope you gained something useful from this presentation. If you have questions, you can email writing services at writing@uguelph.ca or visit the library website at lib.uguelph.ca.